The Passion of Jesus. The journey through Holy Week is the most sacred period in the Christian calendar. Commemorating the final days of Jesus Christ on earth, it is a time of profound reflection, penance, and anticipation leading up to the joy of the resurrection. The Passion of Jesus is suffering, crucifixion, and death, the central theme of this week, marking the ultimate sacrifice for humanity's salvation. This article explores not only the events of Holy Week, but also the theological significance, historical context, and the fulfillment of biblical prophecies surrounding the Passion of Christ. Palm Sunday, the triumphal entry. Holy Week begins with Palm Sunday, recalling Jesus' entrance into Jerusalem. Riding on a donkey, a symbol of peace and humility, Jesus was received by crowds who laid palm branches before him, shouting, "Hosanna! Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord." Theological insight. Palm Sunday fulfills the prophecy of Zechariah 9:9, which foretold that the Messiah would enter Jerusalem as a humble yet victorious king. The palms symbolize victory, while the crowd's enthusiasm foreshadows the fickleness of human nature within days. The same people who welcomed him would call for his crucifixion. Historical context. During this time, Jerusalem was filled with pilgrims for the Jewish festival of Passover. When Jews from across the Roman Empire gathered to commemorate their liberation from Egypt, Jesus' entry, therefore, was not just a spiritual event, but also a political one, drawing attention from both Jewish leaders and Roman authorities. Holy Monday and Tuesday. Confrontation and teachings. On Holy Monday, Jesus cleanses the temple, driving out money changers and rebuking those who turned God's house into a place of commerce. This action intensified the hostility of the religious authorities. On Holy Tuesday, Jesus teaches in the temple, engaging in debates with the Pharisees and Sadducees. He warns against hypocrisy and speaks in parables, including the parable of the 10 virgins and the parable of the wicked tenants, emphasizing the coming of God's kingdom. Holy Wednesday. The betrayal begins, known as Spy Wednesday. This day marks Judas Iscariot's betrayal. For 30 pieces of silver, he agrees to hand Jesus over to the authorities. Theological significance. Judas's betrayal fulfills Psalm 41:9, which says, "Even my close friend, someone I trusted, one who shared my bread, has turned against me." His act also highlights the contrast between human weakness and divine foreknowledge. Jesus was aware of the betrayal, yet he still welcomed Judas at the Last Supper. Historical context. 30 pieces of silver was the price of a slave in biblical times. The religious leaders sought to eliminate Jesus quietly, fearing that a public execution might spark unrest among the Jewish people. Holy Thursday, the Last Supper and agony in Gethsemane. The Last Supper, the institution of the Eucharist. On Holy Thursday, Jesus gathers with his disciples for the Last Supper, where he establishes the Eucharist. He breaks bread and shares wine, declaring, "This is my body, which is given for you. Do this in remembrance of me." This moment institutes the new covenant, replacing the Old Testament sacrificial system with the ultimate sacrifice, Christ himself. The washing of the feet. Jesus humbly washes his disciples' feet. An act of servanthood and love, teaching that greatness in God's kingdom is found in humility and service. The agony in Gethsemane. After supper, Jesus prays in the Garden of Gethsemane, experiencing extreme anguish, sweating drops of blood. He prays, "Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me, yet not my will, but yours be done." This moment demonstrates his humanity as he fully experiences fear and sorrow, yet remains obedient to God's plan. That night, Judas arrives with soldiers, betraying Jesus with a kiss. Jesus is arrested and taken before the Jewish authorities. Good Friday, the Passion and Crucifixion. The trials of Jesus. Jesus faces 2 trials. A religious trial before the Sanhedrin, where he is falsely accused of blasphemy for declaring himself the Son of God. A political trial before Pontius Pilate, who, pressured by the crowd, sentences Jesus to death by crucifixion. The way of the cross. Jesus is scourged, mocked, and crowned with thorns. He carries his cross to Golgotha, where he is nailed to it. At 3 p.m., he cries out, "It is finished," and surrenders his spirit. Theological meaning of the crucifixion, the tearing of the temple veil, symbolizes direct access to God, as Christ becomes the final sacrifice for sin. The darkness over the land reflects divine judgment. His death fulfills Isaiah 53, the prophecy of the suffering servant. Holy Saturday. The descent into Hades on Holy Saturday, Jesus' body lies in the tomb, but his soul descends into Hades to free the righteous souls who had awaited salvation. This is called the harrowing of hell, where he proclaims victory over death. Easter Sunday, the resurrection of Christ. On Easter Sunday, the women find the tomb empty. An angel declares, "He is not here, he has risen." Theological significance of the resurrection victory over death. Christ's resurrection assures eternal life for believers, proof of his divinity. His rising confirms he is truly the Son of God. A new creation. Those who believe in him are spiritually reborn. Conclusion: the Passion, as the heart of Christianity, the Passion of Jesus, is the ultimate expression of God's love. His suffering was not in vain. It was the price paid for humanity's redemption. Holy Week invites Christians to reflect on faith, sacrifice, and the promise of eternal life. Through the Passion and resurrection, Christ conquers sin and death, offering hope to the world.